Hello, everybody. I am Goose, and you're watching On With the Show. And today's topic is something that came over the wire over the weekend, and it has to do with things that were said about Adam Driver and Lena Dunham's new memoir, Fame Sick, and how he handled it, and the certain controversies that are going on. I think with Driver and Lena Dunham in this scenario, because I think there are certain things that are being talked about that are not quite explained that well. We're going to get into it in just a little bit. But if you haven't already, go down, subscribe to the channel, bang that bell for notifications so you always know when new podcasts are uploaded onto YouTube. And I'm going to switch over to the OBS, and we're going to get this show started. All right, let's get into this. Multiple sources reported this, but we're going to take the one from Variety, dated the 17th, which was yesterday, written by Elise Schaefer and Matt Donnelly. It says here, Adam Driver brushes off Lena Dunham's memoir questioning Keynes. I'm saving it all for my book. It says here, Adam Driver may be known for leading critically acclaimed films like BlacKkKlansman and blockbusters like Star Wars, but his career first gained steam on TV in Lena Dunham's HBO series Girls. The show has been in the news again recently as Dunham's memoir, Fame Sick, revealed behind-the-scenes drama, including claims about Driver's on-set behavior. In the book, Dunham alleged that Driver was at times verbally aggressive and once hurled a chair at the wall next to me at Keynes at the press conference for his latest film, Paper Tiger, on Sunday. It did not take long for Driver to be asked about the claims. I have no comment on any of that. I'm saving it all for my book, Driver said plainly, sparking laughter in the room, which I think is probably the best response you can give at this. I'm sure his team, his handlers, had probably told him, look, don't be surprised if you get a question on this, because the book is out and they're saying this, and I think they're going to want to know what your side of this is. And I think his response basically is to not talk about it. Because of, and I'll explain a lot of this on the other side of this, but yeah, I think that was probably the best response to give, because it shut everybody laughed and it shut everybody down. In Fame Sick, Dunham wrote, I remember doing a fight scene with Adam and how scary it was to meet someone so totally present with such absence. Late one night, as we practiced lines in my trailer, I found that mine were suddenly gone, which is interesting. I knew I'd written them. I'd known them only minutes before, but when I opened my mouth, all that came out was a stammer, until finally Adam screamed, "Effing say something," and hurled a chair at the wall next to me. "Wake the F up," he told me. "I'm sick of watching you just stare." Despite their complex relationship, Dunham said she and Driver still felt like partners during their first season of Girls, and she spent an inordinate amount of time wondering if Adam liked me. He could be short-tempered and verbally aggressive, condescending, and physically imposing, she wrote, but could also be protective and loving even. The rest of the article goes on to talk about the film that's coming up, Paper Tiger. But I think there's a video I found. It was left on Reddit, and let me just bring that up, and I'll show the video. And again, I'm sorry for the sound, but this is best way I can do it for right now.
Adam Driver is someone you also had a close relationship, the degree to which you could with who he
Wild
is.
card.
You write about it. Yeah. And at one point in the book, you include this scene when you were in a fight about something related to the show. And you got angry, and he let his anger get the best of him, and he threw a chair at the wall that you were standing against. It didn't hit you, but that's a frightening experience. I guess my question is, why did that feel like a detail you wanted to include?
I think it was really important to me to make it clear in the writing that it was not, he did not hurt me. His aim was great. He didn't get me. He was in some way trying to get my attention. But I think it was really important to me to show that we were sort of doing the best we could to understand each other, but we were almost like two different species circling each other in the woods, and we were clashing. And so I wanted to find a way to talk about that, and I felt like that particular incident made it very clear sort of how deep at times the frustration ran on both ends. But then there's also a scene later in the book when the show ends and we're hugging and we're crying, and he kind of said, I sort of apologized to him for, I'm sorry for any times I misunderstood you, or for any times that I didn't give you what you needed, and him sort of saying it was all as it was supposed to be. And he was in Star Wars, so he gave me that Jedi wisdom, and he was out. So all hail Adam Driver, deep gratitude, deep appreciation, and I hope that can be felt in the writing.
So she holds no ill will to Adam Driver. It was probably just a scary experience. Here's the thing, because I think they were still trying to feel out each other as far as actors are concerned, because sometimes when you're working with someone new, you have to try to figure out, what their technique is and what it is they're trying to do. My technique as an actor is much different than other friends of mine who are actors. I know some people who go, I go pretty much really, really deep into character development, for some people, they get really into like actually trying to be like the character. And it could be rather interesting to see how it goes. Lena Dunham has had a pretty, in my opinion, she's in a new, she's got something going on now. Delusional Downtown Divas. Oh, that was in 2009. What is she working on now? I saw that she was working on something now. It was Too Much. She plays Nora South in 5 episodes of Too Much, a TV miniseries. She's played herself in several roles. She's done a lot of voice work. She was in 1 episode of American Horror Story back in 2017. She did, of course, The Girls was 2012 to 2015, which was the big, that's where she got her big break, was, not just as an actor, but also as a writer, and I think as a producer. She was in Adventure Time. She did 3 episodes in Adventure Time. She was in 1 episode of The Simpsons where she played Hannah Horvath. Which I think is one of her other, Hannah Horvath, which is from Girls. She was in a music video with Taylor Swift back in 2015. She was in an episode of Scandal. She's done This Is 40, where she played Kat. She's done a lot of things since then. I think that, she's, from what I've heard, has tried to take a step back where she had endometriosis, which I hear is not a fun thing to go through. I hear it's very painful. It does look like, and this is not a knock on her, but it does look like she's gained a lot of weight. She is 39, 40 years old, and that does happen as you get older, even with men, and especially, and I don't know this for sure about Lena. I know this for myself, that I gained a lot of my weight when I was going through my depression. And my depression was on and off. And so there were times where I would get depressed and I'd eat more and I'd gain more weight, and then I'd try to get it off. But you can see the different picture here of her than to what she is right here. It looks like she is, I want to say, filled out a little bit. There was a picture of her at the Met Gala earlier where she has this giant red feather dress. But she does have her detractors. Here's the thing. This was written last month by Rachel Simon, April 19th. It says, "We owe Lena Dunham an apology. Dunham is and always has been a flawed figure." I agree with that. I think that's one of the things that we don't take into account with Lena. But an introspective memoir makes clear she never deserved to be her generation's cultural scapegoat. And it goes on to say Lena Dunham is back, and many of us owe her an apology. Famesick has been making the rounds, discussing the book's many dishy revelations from fellow girls star Adam Driver, which we just talked about, his odd behavior, to closeness musician ex Jack Antonoff, and an unnamed teenage pop star, which I didn't know. But Dunham's book also offers some far more profound takeaways about her years in a very harsh spotlight of the 2010s pop culture, her own behavior, and how she was treated and mistreated by the public as a result. The daughter of two established New York creatives, Dunham burst into the mainstream consciousness in 2012 as the creator and star of the HBO series Girls. Which followed the messy and complex lives of four 20-something women in New York, which I think was, I want to say the Bronx, Brooklyn? I think it was Brooklyn. Quickly became one of television's most talked about offerings. The then 25-year-old Dunham, too, became a cultural lightning rod, while her creative talents and keen insight into her generation's mindset earned significant praise. She was also the target of significant and very often personal criticism. For the next decade, she was one of Hollywood's more controversial figures, regularly condemned for her appearance and frequent nude scenes. I never saw. I will admit I have not seen any. I've not seen an episode of Girls, mostly because during that time I did not have HBO. I was not streaming HBO. I might go back and watch this just to get a few episodes in and see what it's because this was really, really popular among a lot of my female friends. Her privileged upbringing and her inflammatory or annoying interviews. That's where I think she got the most, where she had the most problems, was her interviews. Dunham was called a narcissist, an exhibitionist, and an unaware product of nepotism. By the way, of the decade, Dunham had become something of a cultural Rorschach test, viewed by her critics as symbolic of everything supposedly wrong with millennials, hipsters, feminism, and the left. Some of the criticism was warranted. Dunham's candor led to more than a few ill-advised interviews. That, I think, is what got her into a lot of trouble, was she did a lot of interviews, and she would say things that would just, if there's anything you have to take away with anything in media and social media, is that anybody can take something you've said, cut a certain spot out, and make that to be the grand headline of your life. And I think that, again, she had a lot of ill-advised interviews, including a 2016 line about abortion. I remember that. That was rightfully condemned as insensitive, and subsequent apology, which blamed her delusional girl persona for the comment, didn't help. The following year, Dunham and then creative partner Jenny Connor publicly defended Girls writer Murray Miller following sexual assault accusations, questioning the alleged victim's honesty. Miller denied the accusations and no charges were ever filed. Dunham ended up retracting her statement and issuing an apology. So, I'm gonna end the article here because there's a lot of other stuff that goes on that I don't need to get into too much detail. But this was the big thing here. This was the big thing. She would do interviews in which she would say things that were highlighted for all the wrong reasons. And then she would try to blame, blame her character or, Alicia's delusional girl persona for the comment. As far as about Murray Miller, I didn't know much about that. And I think it would have been best. And I know there were probably people who were like, what are you going to fire him? Are you going to keep him? Or what are you going to do? I think her best thing would have been to just like, hey, let's see how this works out because, and I know that at that time, it was a believe all women kind of thing going on. but to question the alleged victim's honesty. I mean, this goes into, and I'm going to go talk about this on the other side of this, because I think that there are times where one person's perspective on something is not the other person's perspective on something. And I think this goes back to the Adam Driver. I can take this back to the Adam Driver incident and talk about that. So I'm going to close out the OBS. I'm going to talk about this on the other side. We'll go into a little bit of detail and I'll give you my opinion on all this. So just hold on. Let me just switch off the OBS and let me switch it back over. All right. So my opinion on this whole thing is that we have a situation where we probably had two different perspectives on the same event, which it often happens. And I think Adam Driver, especially at that time, because this was, I think, his big break. This television show was, I think, his big break. And so he wanted to make the best of it. I know. And so when you're an actor, you want to make sure that, even if you're only on a show for 1 episode, 5 episodes, a season, you want to make enough of an impact so that you can get work after that. And so I don't know what Adam Driver's, what his preparation is. But I know for some people, it's like I know a lot of actors who are perfectionists. They want to make sure they put out the best performance possible. As a director, I've had a couple of actors where, oh, that was really good. Can we do it again? I want to do it again. Well, that was really good. I know, but I want to do it again because I'm not comfortable with it. And that kind of perfectionism, I know it can be annoying, but in order to get if your actor feels like I need to get a better performance out of this, they want a better performance out of it. They know they can do it. And this could just be in a situation where Adam was just intense. He wanted to make sure that he got it right. He wanted to make sure that the scene was done right, and was probably frustrated. And who knows, maybe she didn't bother to tell him that I guess her pages were missing or her lines were missing. And I think maybe he's dealt with her before that, where, she just like stared into the air and he was just so, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. And if you saw in the video, in the interview, I think that they were still trying to get used to each other. They were still trying to get used to the process of each other and learn each other's techniques and processes and all that other fun stuff. So, and we don't really know. I mean, she says that he picked up a chair and threw it, at the wall and next to her. We don't know if he actually picked it up and threw it just violently, rah, or if he just picked it up off the floor, and then just oops, sorry, and then just threw it at her. Boom. We don't know that. We just know that she said he picked up a chair and threw it, and you're going to get certain people who are going to glom onto that, and they're going to ask him, what? Tell us more about what that incident where you threw a chair at Lena Dunham. And to him, it was like, I'm sure he was like, we were trying to work together in a scene. And then, I got frustrated with something. But I don't think he wants to, I don't think he wants to come across as being, violent, aggressive. I think that he's trying to work something out to where, he wants to get the most out of the scene. And you could see in the interview, the less than 2-minute interview that we saw of her, that she was very appreciative of Adam Driver. That she had a lot of mad respect for him. It wasn't like she was saying, "Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe this guy terrified me." No, none of that. It was, I think that they were still trying to figure out, they're still feeling each other out, so to say, of this. And I think Adam Driver is going to continue to work forward. Like I said, I'm sure his handlers were like, hey, this came out and Lena said this about you and that you might get questions on it. So just be ready. And he was like, okay. But as far as the other thing that I read, as far as owing Lena Dunham an apology, I think at that point in time when you're still young, and let's be honest, 25 in Hollywood is young, and you haven't been put through the ringer with multiple interviews and so I think that there are just times where she took these. I'm sure her people were like, you don't want to do this interview. Oh, it'll be fine. This will be great. Don't worry about it. It'll help with the show. And and then she says something that just is totally wrong, and people jump on it and then make it to become this whole thing that it's not about. So I think that she's grown out of this. She's continuing. Oh, I'm sorry about that. She's continuing to move forward on this, and God bless her. I think that in some ways, I think she's still trying to. How do I say this? Even if 39, 40, I think she's still trying to discover herself. She's trying to work through, and I think we continue to do that all throughout our life. In the beginning, I really didn't. I don't know Lena Dunham enough. I've not seen enough of her work to be critical of it. But I do know. Oh my gosh, all of these notifications are coming at once. It becomes annoying. Anyway, so moving forward. So, do we owe her an apology? I think it's somewhat we do. I think we put too much pressure on her to be like a symbol of her generation. But at the same time, here's another notification. But I think at the same time, I think she also put herself in that situation. I don't, and I think that you sometimes have to, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? You're going to have to kind of survive your own. You're going to have to try to survive your own trauma. You're going to have to try to survive the things in which you put yourself into. And I think she's growing into that. I think she's going to continue to grow into that. What's to say that, from here on out that, she doesn't have another show or another series or something where she looks back upon her old self and goes, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe how foolish I was. It's and I think with the whole thing with Murray Miller, I think that she was there's a certain gosh, again, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a certain, I don't want to say attachment, but she probably felt certain loyalty to him, and she probably he probably told her what happened. And she believed him rather than the accuser. The problem is that when you have stuff like this going on, you're going to have to figure out, you're going to have to walk that fine line of, well, what do? We can't say nothing. We can't, and we can't openly come out and support him. We can't openly support her. We don't have enough details. And that does happen when in certain situations. I like to say this about, there's his story, there's her story, and then there's the story. In other words, everybody sees what's going on through their own perspective and their own lenses. And sometimes what happens really is, is kind of a combination of the both. But I think she was kind of stuck in a situation where it was like, okay, what do I do? I have certain loyalty to Murray, but I don't want to come across as insensitive to the victim. And then, of course, when no charges are when there are no charges brought. There's another fine line where it's like, well, there probably is not enough evidence to support whatever charge there is. Not to get into any details or get into the weeds, but it's like I think in certain circumstances, and I think what she should have done is just like, look, we want to wait to see what, we want to find out everything. We want to hear the truth first. We want to know all the details before we just jump on and fire somebody, and I think that's the most mature thing to do. However, there are people in this world that are like, no, we don't accept that answer. You need to give us something now. And I think, at that time, I think, she was not prepared for all of the, again, I'm trying to find the right words for this. I don't think she was prepared at all for what was about to hit her. At all. I think a combination of doing an ill-advised interviews with trying to live her own life, trying to be creative, trying to get her, keep the show going, I think was probably very overwhelming. And, and probably took a lot out of her, and, I'm surprised that she's kept working. I would have thought that she would have she may have taken a step back. To try to reassess her life, but there are some who've just pulled back entirely. And I'm done with this, but she's continued to work. She's continued to be, very creative, and God bless her if she keeps going. But I think you cannot. Here's something I'm going to leave this with. I'm going to leave this with here. And that there are times when you are going to have to accept that people have grown out of their sins. In other words, they've survived, they've learned, they've asked for forgiveness, and we should just, let's see how much they've matured. And I'm sure that Lena at this point has matured. We have seen where she wrote something in which some people are like, Adam Driver was an abuser, only for her to come out in an interview and say, no, that wasn't the case. It's totally being taken out of context, but she wanted to put it out there because she wanted people to know, hey, these were the stressful times we were going through to get this show moving and this show going. And I think she deserves at least some amount of respect for at least being able to sit there and say, Adam Driver is one of the greatest people to work with. And he just had a certain way of doing things that I wasn't accustomed to at the time. All right. I have talked enough about this. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, go down, subscribe to the channel, bang the bell for notifications, bang, bang, bang the bell for notifications so you always know when new videos and new podcasts are uploaded to YouTube. Give me a big like on the video. It does help me with the algorithm, and it does tell me that these are the kind of videos that you want me to continue to do. Share this out to your friends, family, and neighbors. Let them know what I'm doing over here on with the show. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about today's topic. Do you think the press read too much into what Lena Dunham said about Adam Driver? Or do you think there's more going on? Or do you think that maybe, hey, I want to know what your comments are about Lena Dunham and Adam Driver and this whole scenario, because I think this is going to blow over soon enough, and no one's even going to be talking about this months from now. All right? Again, I'm Goose. You've been watching On With The Show. Thank you so much. I will see you all on the other side.